Once upon a time, there was a quaint village, populated by quaint people going about their quaint business. But at the edge of the village, there was an imposing castle that was owned by a wealthy and reclusive giant.
Oi, look at that castle. Can you believe that thing? So big and posh, like it's thumbing its posh nose at our little buildings.
No one has seen the giant in 7 years because he's traveling across the kingdom. But hidden behind the castle gates was a lush and beautiful garden. It was elegant and well-tended with peach trees, thick grass, tasteful statuary, and lovely, fragrant flowers. It was like Eden. And every afternoon after school, children would sneak into the garden and play in its lush grounds. They loved it very much. Until one day, the castle giant returned from his 7-year sojourn, and he was quite displeased to see the little trespassers.
I'm gone for just 7 years to visit my friend, Carl the Cornish Ogre, and I come home to this. Trespassers in my precious garden. That's right. You better run, you little menaces. Lucky for you lot that I'm not too jet-lagged to chase ya.
Remembering he still had the football, the giant threw it over his garden wall. He could have easily destroyed the ball. Instead, he sent it back to the children. Perhaps he was motivated by something inside him that he didn't understand yet. One day, when the giant had tea,
Perfect morning to have tea all by myself.
the children returned, and the giant was none too happy about it.
Sorry, Mr. Giant, but could we please have our ball back?
Here you go, children. Now get out! Get out! Get out!
The giant had enough of the juvenile trespassers on his property, so he took drastic action.
What you're doing is cruel. The children love your garden and they have nowhere else good to play.
I'm under no obligation to let anyone on my property, let alone a pack of wild, undisciplined, sniveling little brats.
How dare you say that? You know what you are? You are a sad, lonely, selfish giant.
And that's that.
And since that day, the giant wasn't bothered by children violating his peace and quiet again. He lived happily ever after. The end. No, wait! That's a terrible ending. There's more to this story. Although the giant was indeed selfish, he was also truly sad and lonely. He just didn't realize it yet. And the year unfolded in his garden with no intruders. Spring to summer, summer to autumn, and autumn to winter. But when spring returned, the giant noticed something unusual. His garden was still covered in snow. While it was spring everywhere else, somehow it was still winter in his garden. The giant wondered how this could be. Then another ball flies over the wall and into the snowy garden. A boy manages to squeeze through the bars of the gate to retrieve it.
Why is there snow here?
While the giant hid from the boy, he noticed something quite remarkable. The snow was melting where the boy walked, and flowers sprouted and bloomed. The small boy saw that his football was stuck in a very tall tree. He tried to climb it, but he was just too small for the task. As the giant watched the boy struggle to get the football out of the tree, he realized something. Spring was returning to his garden. And the giant wondered if the children playing in his garden had something to do with it.
Everybody, come back. My garden is open to all.
Hey, that dangerous, selfish giant is trying to lure the kids into the garden. Let's get him!
So the kids from the village returned and played in the garden. They were delightfully surprised by all the snow. And as they played, the giant's entire garden began to transform from winter into spring. The giant was right, and suddenly he wasn't feeling lonely anymore.
Suddenly, I feel like sharing everything I have. I don't feel lonely anymore.
And the giant lifted the boy up into the tree. But then the villagers showed up armed with pitchforks, hoes, spades, and brooms.
Put that kid down, you monster, or we'll run you out of the village!
Thank you, Mr. Giant.
It's your garden now. This garden is open to all.
The villagers put down their weapons and entered the garden, joining their children in play. Many years later, the giant grew old and feeble. And although he had lovely memories of the time the children played in his garden, he was sad and lonely again because they stopped coming.
I reckon they've all grown up, little Daisy. They've moved on with their lives. They never call. They never write.
Then a young man came to the garden gates. He shouted to the giant.
Hello, Mr. Giant. May I visit your lovely garden?
The giant was delighted to have any visitor. So he waved at the young man and invited him in. The giant's old eyes widened with surprise. His wrinkled face drew a smile. The young man that stood before him was the small boy he befriended years ago.
Please, don't get up, but I want you to meet someone. Someone who wanted to see the garden I played in as a child. My son.
The young man shouts a name. And a small boy that looked so much like the boy the giant remembered from years ago entered the garden. And so as the years went on, new children of the village played in the garden, and years after that, their own children would play in the garden too. Their youth kept it evergreen long after the giant passed on. The giant wasn't remembered as mean and selfish. He was regarded as the giant who opened his heart and his garden to all those who seeked its company. The end.